Racist teacher cuts off black boy's dreadlocks. Unaware his dad is the superintendent, a classroom punishment turns into a scandal when a teacher's overreach is exposed. The boy's father holds a position that guarantees justice will be served. And if you cherish your family and love stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and avoid 10 years of bad luck. The morning bell echoed through Washington Heights High School's halls as students rushed to their first classes. Jamal Thompson walked confidently through the corridor, his well-maintained dreadlocks drawing admiring glances from his peers. Several students stopped to chat with him, some reaching out to fist bump as he passed. His hair had become a symbol of pride and identity among his classmates, who appreciated how he carried himself with quiet dignity despite the obvious tension with certain faculty members. Professor Richard Martin stood at his classroom doorway, watching the students file in. His pressed shirt and rigid posture reflected his old-school approach to education. As Jamal approached, Martin's jaw tightened noticeably. He'd made his views on non-traditional appearances clear in previous staff meetings, though his colleagues often dismissed his complaints as outdated. The advanced placement history class began like any other, with Martin writing key dates on the whiteboard while students settled into their seats. Jamal sat near the middle of the room, taking out his textbook and notebook. 20 minutes into the lecture about the Industrial Revolution, Jamal glanced down at his phone to check a text from his father about their evening plans. Martin spotted this immediately. "Mr. Thompson," he announced loudly, "perhaps you'd like to share with the class what's so important on your phone that it interrupts my lesson?" The room fell silent. Other students who had been checking their phones quickly slipped them into their pockets. "Sorry, sir," Jamal responded calmly. "It was just a message from my dad." "Stand up," Martin commanded, walking toward Jamal's desk. "Your constant disrespect for this classroom and its rules needs to be addressed." Several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats, recognizing the disproportionate response to such a minor infraction. Jamal stood, maintaining his composure. "I apologis, Professor Martin. It won't happen again. Your appearance, your attitude, your complete disregard for authority. It all stops today," Martin continued, his voice rising. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a pair of scissors. The classroom atmosphere shifted from uncomfortable to alarming. "Sir, what are you doing?" Jamal asked, taking a step back. "Teaching you a lesson about respect and proper appearance in an educational setting." Martin advanced toward Jamal, scissors in hand. "These dreadlocks violate our school's grooming policy, and I'm tired of making exceptions." Several students pulled out their phones, starting to record. Jessica Chun, sitting near the front, raised her hand. "Professor Martin, this isn't right." Silence. Martin snapped, now standing directly in front of Jamal. Without warning, he grabbed one of Jamal's dreadlocks and began cutting. The sound of scissors closing filled the horrified silence of the classroom. Jamal stood frozen, shock and humiliation washing over him as his carefully maintained dreadlocks fell to the floor. Tears welled in his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. His classmates watched in horror, some recording, others too stunned to move. The cutting continued for what felt like an eternity, but lasted less than 2 minutes. When Martin stepped back, satisfied with his disciplinary action, several of Jamal's dreadlocks lay scattered on the classroom floor. The damage wasn't just to his hair, it was a public assault on his dignity and identity. The bell rang, but nobody moved. Martin returned to his desk as if nothing unusual had happened. "Class dismissed," he announced, shuffling papers on his desk. "Mr. Thompson, I expect a more appropriate appearance moving forward." Jamal remained standing, his hands shaking. Finally, Marcus Rodriguez, his best friend since middle school, stood up and put an arm around his shoulders. "Come on, man," he whispered. "Let's go." As they left the classroom, other students gathered around Jamal in a protective circle. The videos of the incident were already being shared, and the first signs of outrage were spreading through the school's social media networks. What Martin didn't realize was that his actions would trigger a chain of events that would shake the entire school district to its core. David Thompson's office at the district headquarters buzzed with activity when his phone rang. The school's number flashed on the screen. As superintendent, he received calls from schools regularly, but something felt different about this one. "Mr. Thompson, there's been an incident involving Jamal," the secretary's voice wavered. "We need you to come to the school immediately." David's heart raced as he gathered his things. During the drive, his mind cycled through possibilities of fight and accident, anything but what he would actually find. He parked haphazardly in the visitor's spot, his superintendent's badge gleaming on his chest as he strode through the front doors. The main office was unusually quiet. Through the window, he saw a group of students gathered around someone, Jamal. His son sat hunched in a chair, his mutilated dreadlocks evident even from a distance. David's chest tightened as he pushed through the door. "What happened?" he demanded, kneeling beside his son. Jamal looked up, his eyes red but dry. The damage was worse up close. Chunks of his hair had been roughly cut, leaving an uneven mess that spoke of violence rather than styling. "Professor Martin," Jamal said quietly. "He said my hair violated school policy. He just started cutting." The surrounding students nodded, several holding up phones, showing recordings of the incident. David's professional demeanor cracked. "Where is he?" His voice carried the weight of both parental fury and administrative authority. Professor Martin chose that moment to enter the office, maintaining his usual rigid posture. Mr. Thompson, I assume you're here about your son's violation of our grooming standards." David stood slowly, turning to face Martin. "Professor Martin, I'm not here as just Jamal's father. I'm here as the district superintendent, and you have exactly 1 minute to explain why you assaulted a student." Martin's confident expression faltered slightly, but he recovered quickly. "Superintendent? Well, that explains the lack of discipline. When students don't respect authority. David interrupted. "You mean power? There's a difference, Professor Martin, one you clearly don't understand. What you did wasn't discipline. It was assault, discrimination, and a violation of multiple district policies." The office had gone completely silent. Even the administrative staff had stopped pretending to work, watching the confrontation unfold. "These policies are destroying our educational standards," Martin argued. "When I started teaching, students knew their place. They respected Dash. Fear isn't respect," David cut in. "In their place? Would you care to elaborate on what you mean by that?" The challenge in his voice was clear. Martin straightened his tie nervously. "I simply mean that standards have fallen. When students can come to school looking like Dash. Like what, Professor Martin? Like my son? Like me when I was his age? Choose your next words very carefully." The tension in the room was palpable. Martin's facade of authority began to crack under David's steady gaze. "I was merely enforcing school policy," he managed weakly. "No," David replied. "You were enforcing your prejudices. And now you'll face the consequences." He turned to the office staff. "I want security footage, WITN, statements, and those student recordings sent to my office immediately. Professor Martin, consider yourself suspended pending investigation." "You can't," Martin started. "I can, and I am." David turned back to Jamal, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Come on, son. We're going home." As they walked out, David's mind was already racing with plans. This wasn't just about Jamal anymore. It was about every student who'd ever faced discrimination disguised as discipline. David organized an emergency community meeting at the local community center. The room filled quickly with concerned parents, many of whom had children at Washington Heights High. Photos of Jamal's mutilated hair had spread through social media, drawing unprecedented attendance. "What happened to Jamal isn't isolated," David began, standing at the podium. "It's part of a pattern." He gestured to the screen behind him, showing compiled incidents of discrimination from the past 5 years. Parents began sharing their own stories. Maria Rodriguez stood up first. "My son was put in remedial classes despite his advanced test scores. When I questioned it, they said he wouldn't fit in with the AP students." James Wilson, a local pastor, added, "My daughter was sent home for wearing traditional African head wraps during Black History Month. They called it distracting." The stories continued for hours. Each account revealed a deeper problem within the school system. Not just individual prejudice, but institutional bias masked as policy. David recorded each testimony, building a comprehensive case against the current administration. Sarah Chun, an education advocate, helped organize the testimonies into categories: dress code enforcement, disciplinary actions, academic placement, and cultural suppression. The data showed clear patterns of discriminatory practices. "We need more than just Martin's removal," David concluded. "We need systematic change." He proposed a three-point plan. 1. Immediate review of all disciplinary policies. 2. Mandatory cultural competency training for staff. 3. Creation of a diversity oversight committee. The meeting evolved into a strategy session. Parents formed committees, each focusing on different aspects of the proposed changes. Legal experts in the community offered pro bono services. Local civil rights organizations pledged support. Linda Martinez, a school board member who'd attended quietly, approached David afterward. "You've built a strong case," she admitted. "But the board won't change easily. They're worried about precedent, about appearing weak on discipline." "Then we'll make them more worried about appearing discriminatory," David responded. "We have documentation, testimonies, and now organization." The chapter ends with David reviewing the meeting notes at home, while Jamal works on establishing a student advocacy group. The community's response had transformed their personal injury into a movement for change, setting the stage for a larger confrontation with the school administration. The Thompson dining room table became command central, covered with documents, testimonies, and action plans. What began as one father's anger had evolved into an organized campaign for institutional change, backed by a community tired of watching their children's dignity being stripped away under the guise of discipline. David organized a formal presentation for the upcoming school board meeting while helping Jamal establish a student diversity coalition. The coalition quickly grew, attracting students from various backgrounds who shared stories of discrimination. In his office, David prepared data showing discriminatory patterns. 85% of dress code violations targeted minority students. Disciplinary actions were 3 times more frequent for students of color. Advanced placement recommendations showed significant racial disparity. Jamal's coalition created immediate impact. Daily lunch meetings drew over 100 students. Students design Ed Dignity over Discrimination posters. Social media campaigns gained local news attention. Multiple student testimonies were recorded. The administration's response remained defensive. Principal Wagner issued a statement supporting Martin's commitment to standards, while refusing to address the discrimination claims. This hardline stance only strengthened community resolve. The tension escalated when Martin, despite his suspension, sent emails to faculty defending his actions. These emails, leaked by sympathetic teachers, revealed deeper prejudices. These new policies are destroying traditional values. Some students simply don't understand proper academic environment. Parents are enabling disruptive cultural expressions. David met with civil rights attorneys to review the case. They identified multiple violations: assault and battery, discrimination under Title VI, violation of religious freedom. Some dreadlocks had religious significance. Emotional distress. Meanwhile, Jamal's coalition organized Culture Pride Days, where students wore traditional clothing and shared cultural stories. The events attracted positive media coverage, contrasting sharply with the administration's rigid stance. David stood before the packed school board meeting, his evidence organized meticulously. The room buzzed with tension as parents, students, and media filled every available space. "My son's humiliation was recorded," David began, playing the video on the projector. Gasps filled the room as they watched Martin violently cutting Jamal's hair. But this isn't just about one incident. It's about systemic discrimination masked as discipline. David presented the compiled data, showing discriminatory patterns. Board members shifted uncomfortably as he displayed graphs of disproportionate disciplinary actions against minority students. Martin interrupted from his seat. "These students need structure. Their cultural expressions their cultural expressions, David countered, are protected by law. What disrupts education is prejudice disguised as policy." Parents began sharing testimonies. Each story reinforced the pattern of discrimination. Some board members took notes, while others appeared defensive. Board Chair Peterson attempted to redirect. "Perhaps we should focus on dress code compliance rather than addressing discrimination?" David interjected. "That's exactly the problem. We normalize prejudice by calling it compliance. The atmosphere grew tenser as David presented statements from educational experts about cultural sensitivity and academic success. Martin repeatedly tried to interject, but community members shouted him down. Jamal's Student Diversity Club transformed the school atmosphere. Daily meetings grew larger, attracting students from all backgrounds. They organized cultural exchange events in the cafeteria during lunch periods. The club's first major event featured traditional dance performances, student poetry readings about identity, cultural food, sharing art displays, representing different heritages, personal stories of discrimination and resilience. Martin, though suspended, continued attempting to undermine the initiative through sympathetic faculty members. Anonymous complaints about disruption of academic environment increased. Jamal emerged as a natural leader, encouraging students to share their experiences. Asian students discussed academic stereotyping. Muslim students shared prayer space challenges. Latino students described language discrimination. LGBTQ+ students revealed systematic exclusion. The club created a cultural dignity guide, documenting discriminatory practices and proposing inclusive alternatives. The document gained attention from neighboring schools facing similar issues. Principal Wagner found himself increasingly isolated as faculty members began openly supporting the student movement. The administration's resistance started showing cracks. He chapter ends during a particularly successful cultural showcase, with Martin watching from his car in the parking lot, his influence visibly waning as the school embraced change. The event's success demonstrated that inclusion enhanced rather than disrupted education, directly contradicting Martin's claims about maintaining standards. The Diversity Club's major event transformed the school gymnasium into a multicultural festival. Students performed traditional dances, shared family recipes, and displayed artwork representing their heritage. The atmosphere vibrated with music, laughter, and genuine cultural exchange. Jamal coordinated performances showcasing African drum circles, Chinese lion dance, Mexican folk dancing, Native American storytelling, gospel choir performances. David observed from the sidelines, noting the stark contrast between this vibrant celebration and Martin's rigid vision of education. Students moved freely between exhibits, asking questions and sharing stories. The event attracted unexpected allies. Local business leaders offered sponsorships. City council members attended. Educational consultants documented the initiative. Media coverage highlighted positive changes. Martin appeared briefly, his presence causing tension until several teachers pointedly positioned themselves between him and the students. His attempt to document violations was met with collective indifference. Principal Wagner, witnessing the event's success and community support, began showing signs of shifting his position. He even participated in some cultural activities, though awkwardly. David and other parents intensified pressure on the administration. They presented documented discrimination cases, legal precedents, supporting their position, expert testimonies on educational inclusivity, financial implications of potential lawsuits. Martin, growing desperate, launched a counter-campaign. Circulated emails questioning David's motives. Claimed nepotism due to David's position. Suggested the diversity initiative lowered standards. Attempted to rally conservative parents. The community responded with a peaceful protest. 500+. Participants gathered outside the school. Students shared discrimination stories. Teachers joined in solidarity. Local civil rights leaders spoke. The administration faced mounting pressure. Media coverage increased. District officials demanded action. Legal teams prepared documentation. Board members received countless complaints. The chapter ends as protesters chant "No more silence," while Martin watches from his office, his supporters dwindling. The protest demonstrated that the community wouldn't back down until systematic changes were implemented. The movement had grown beyond Jamal's incident, becoming a catalyst for district-wide reform. The local news picked up Jamal's story, attracting widespread attention to Washington Heights High. News vans lined the school parking lot as reporters interviewed students and parents about systemic discrimination. Media coverage revealed Multiple videos of Martin's discriminatory actions. Historical patterns of bias at the school. Student testimonies of similar incidents. Community's unified response. David's petition gathered significant support. 5,000 plus signatures. Endorsements from civil rights organizations. Support from educational experts. Backing from state representatives. Martin's final attempt to control the narrative backfired. Sent inflammatory emails to parents. Made racially charged comments to reporters. Attempted to discredit student testimonies. Threatened legal action against critics. The pressure mounted as. National media outlets picked up the story. Civil rights organizations offered legal support. Education board members faced public scrutiny. Donors threatened to withhold funding. The chapter concludes with David preparing for the final board meeting, armed with overwhelming evidence and community support. Martin's increasingly erratic behavior suggested the pressure was reaching a breaking point. The story had evolved from a local incident to a national conversation about discrimination in schools. A student's cell phone video surfaced showing Martin making explicitly racist comments during a private conversation with another teacher. In the footage, he discussed his views on maintaining cultural standards, plans to target specific student groups, complaints about diversity initiatives, derogatory remarks about students' backgrounds. The video spread rapidly through social media platforms, parent group chats, local news stations, educational forums. The board called an emergency meeting where the video was publicly played. Martin attempted to defend himself. Parents demanded immediate action. David presented final evidence. The board's decision was unanimous. Martin's immediate termination. Implementation of diversity training. Policy review and revision. Formation of oversight committee. The victory rippled through the school. Jamal's Club became permanent. New cultural sensitivity policies enacted. Regular diversity celebrations established. Hiring practices reformed. The story concludes with Jamal and David attending a school assembly celebrating the changes. Martin cleaned out his desk while students cheered outside, marking the end of an era of discrimination and the beginning of authentic inclusion. The Thompsons' fight had transformed not just their school, but set a precedent for educational institutions nationwide.